Take it away, Mike.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Mike Kanakos. Today is February 2nd, and we're going to be talking about the Microsoft Secrets Management module. I've been giving you guys and girls a brief overview of the basics of how Secrets Management module works and how you can integrate it into your daily workflow. This is a demonstration-heavy presentation. I just have a few slides to sort of highlight some of the basic concepts. A little bit about myself. I'm proud to say that I've just been awarded the Microsoft MVP award, so it still feels pretty cool to say that. I am the co-lead of the Research Triangle PowerShell Users Group. I am an infrastructure engineer for Invisalign. I work on AD, Azure, single sign-on, PKI, and stuff like that. I with a focus on automation, and I'm involved with PowerShell.org. I'm the community director for community events. I blog regularly, and you can find stuff in my website and others. And please, if I can answer any questions, please reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions I can. So let's jump right into it. Tonight, there's really three areas we're going to talk about. Most of the time, we're going to spend inside the Secrets Management module. I'm going to give you guys an overview of how it works. And with that, I'm going to also talk about another module called the Secret Store Vault. I'll explain what that is in a little bit. And then once we get past the minutia of how to install it, a couple of commands and things like that, we're going to jump into everyday secrets usage. Show you how you can call a secret and pass it to something. I think credential management is not a tough topic to handle, so I think most people on this call will be able to appreciate where I'm coming from pretty quick. And so I won't go too much into how to call secrets. I'll show you a few examples, but I think once you see it once or twice, it'll become very easy to understand. And then one of the great things about secrets management from a Microsoft perspective is they've built an engine for us to create and manage secrets. You need to store those secrets somewhere, and that's in a vault. Microsoft has provided a vault. It's called the Secret Store. That's the add-on module I'm going to be talking about. But the open source community has created about 8 other vaults for most of the major password providers. I'm going to give you guys a little demo of how KeePass works tonight. And the reason I picked KeePass, I don't actually use it in the day-to-day, but I wanted to show how you can have a GUI-based vault that PowerShell can interact with from a command line. So that's what we're going to be covering tonight. I want to jump right in. I have a slide that I'm going to be showing about how Secrets Management works, but I'm going to come back to this for a second. All right. We'll pause here. And I want to show you a little bit about my environment. Let's get out of here. Let's definitely get out of there. All right. So my environment that we're going to be playing around with tonight is 3 machines. So it's these 3 machines right up here. So there's nothing fancy here. I have a domain controller running Server 2019, and I have 2 Windows 10 clients. We're probably not even going to use the domain controller. It's just there for authentication. What I'm going to highlight is I'm going to do a little bit of remoting from the Win 10 client to the DC, and I'll show you how authentication works with passing a password, a secret. All right, so I have 3 VMs running. I have a DC here in the middle. I'll show you that in a second. And 2 clients. So client 01 is an environment I've already built. Everything on this is complete. If my demos go to crap, I can show you everything on client 01. Client 02 has nothing. And if things work out well, we're going to build everything from scratch and do it together. So we're going to have 2 VMs that we can interact with, and one is complete. Everything's installed with a demo vault and some stuff I could pull up, and one has nothing. We'll do it together. If anybody wants to follow along, you can recreate these steps very easily. I'm not going to go super fast. If anybody is interested in following along, please let me know, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. If you're struggling with a step, I'd be happy to help you. I can see the chat. If you have questions, please feel free to dump them in the chat. Feel free to interrupt at any time, ask a question if there's something that doesn't seem right. And last thing I'll say is a lot of people probably assume that because I'm an MVP and I'm giving a presentation tonight that I'm an expert. I wouldn't call myself an expert. This is a module that just came out of preview and is just at release candidate stage. I've been using it for about 2 months. So I'm an expert as much as 2 months of usage with a module can get you. I probably know more than most of you on the call, but if someone knows something on the call about the module that I'm misrepresenting or something I'm leaving out, please feel free to chime in and share, because I would rather people go away with the right information. So with that, let's get started. I have my presentation saved on my GitHub. I can send some links out afterwards if anybody wants to grab the little bit of scripts that I have here to use to play around with for yourselves. But what I want to start with is an actual live demo, so you can actually see how it works. That's DC, I don't care about that. Client 01, here we go. All right, so let's just get ourselves level set here. All right, so how's font sizes? Is this too small for people? We okay with this?
Looks good to me from my end, but if we got one request to bump it, so feel free to bump it.
Does Control Plus work here? I don't think it does. I'll bump that up. Properties, layout. All right, a little better. I can go bigger if you guys need bigger. Just let me know. All right, let me just pop open the chat so I can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. Okay, hey, I see Mr. Stephen Judd is here. Hello, Steve. All right, so I have done this demo once before. I did this when it was a preview release, and I did this about 2 months ago. And one of the things that I realized after I did the demo is that I went through and I explained all the moving pieces, and it kind of didn't make sense to people until they saw me actually recall a secret. So tonight, instead of going into all the little pieces, I want to call a secret first, so you can just see right out of the bat what it's like. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to do a little bit of remoting. I'm going to PowerShell remote from my client to my DC, okay? If you're not familiar with PowerShell remoting, it's a way to interact with a remote system via the command prompt. You can do that interactively through enter PS session, or you can do it on a demand basis through invoke command. This is not a talk about remoting. If you need more information about that, let me know, but I think you'll understand what I'm doing pretty simply. So first things first, this is my command prompt here. I'm sitting in this Git repos directory. The user that I'm running at is a name called Braden Sims. It's just a random user I made, and I'm in an elevated command prompt, which means this is running as administrator, which allows me to make changes. Now, this user bsims is just a local admin on this VM. It doesn't have any rights in the domain. So if I was to enter a PS session, that's the command to remote to another machine, my DC name is DC01. If I type this command and I hit enter, it's going to try to make a connection over a secure port to my DC. And as long as the firewall is open and the port is running, I would be able to make the connection if I had the credentials, meaning I had the right to do so. Since this user is not an elevated user, meaning is not a domain admin or anything like that, and I'm trying to connect to a DC, this is going to fail. That is absolutely what I expected to happen. This is saying right here, access denied. And the reason I want to show this is because I want to call a secret and show you how I can pass a secret for an alternate credential and make a connection to a remote machine. So I'm going to do the same command, but now I'm going to say credential. And I'm now going to pass in a secret. And don't worry if you don't understand the syntax at this point, because that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Just want to show you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass in a credential that I've named cred mkadmin. My domain admin in my test lab is called mkadmin. And I'm just going to pass that in. And now what it's asking me is it's asking me for my master password to my password vault. I'll type that in. And what we're going to get here is, if you're unfamiliar with remoting, when you connect to a remote machine, the command prompt changes to the name of the machine that you're on. And now I can say here, who am I? And now you can see I'm connected as my mkadmin account. And you saw before that I was running as bsims. And host name. You can see I'm on the DC1 domain controller, which is this box down here. Okay, so we're going to come back to this, but what I wanted to show you is how it works in the real world. I am running a command that supports a credential parameter, and I'm pulling out a secret out of my vault. The secret name is called cred mkadmin. Now, in no way here did I save this secret anywhere where it's recallable for me, like in a variable or anything like that. I went and I reached out to a vault. The vault is encrypted. I put in the master password. The master password let me into the vault, retrieved the secret, passed it to the credential. The credential passed it to the machine, authenticated me, and let me in. That's the end result. Now let's talk about how to get there. All right, so hopefully that helps you explain what we're trying to do. All right, so with that, let's jump in here and take a look at some stuff. I'm going to really be talking about three sort of separate areas, right? We're going to talk about install, and then we'll go through some vault tasks, and then I'll show you KeyPass. All right, and I do have some notes for myself. I'm going to pop this up on a separate screen. So a little bit about the module that we're talking about. So the module that we're talking about is called the secret. This is a typo. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's back up for a sec. All right. The modules that we're going to use tonight is called the secret management module. I'll show you my notes here. Okay. It's called the secret management module. Okay. It's a little hard to find on the gallery, so I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let me explain a little bit about the module. The module is an engine. The engine is the driver of the secrets management. It is the thing that does all the work. The module needs a sister module to store secrets into, called a vault. So Microsoft has provided two modules for us to do secrets management. The engine is called Secret Management, and the vault is called Secret Store. Okay, so Secret Management and Secret Store. Secret Management is a requirement. You can use other vaults besides the Secret Store. If you don't have a vault to use, you pull down the Secret Store and there you go. It's Microsoft's homegrown solution and it's standalone. If you want to plug in your existing password manager like KeyPass or LastPass or Bitwarden or some of the other popular ones out there, you can go out on the gallery and you can pull down these open source modules that have been built by the community, and you can work with the secret management module and then port your secrets to a different vault. And I'm going to go through that a little bit, but we need to go through some of the basics of what the management module does and how you can get some more information. So right out of the bat, there's 5 types of secrets that can be supported in the secrets management module: strings, secure strings, bytes, byte secrets, hash tables, and PS credentials. For our demo tonight, we're going to be looking at string and PS credential. I think that's going to cover most of the things we want to do. So why would you want to store a string? Let's say you need an API key, a GUID, a special syntax that you need to pass that's hard to remember or complex. You can save a regular string of text as a secret and call it as you need it. That way you don't have to recreate that every time. So string is super valuable. And as you can imagine, PS credentials is really the main thing that we use with PowerShell. I'll show you how you can use that as well. But understand that the secret management module stores secrets, and those secrets can be of a variety of types. One of them being hash tables, meaning that you can store quite a bit of information in one secret. Now, you might want to know a little bit more about how all this works. The Microsoft PowerShell team has a blog, and they've written extensively about their module. The latest release is called Release Candidate 1, and there's a blog post related to the release candidate. I did this demo 2 months ago, and it was at preview 6. They've gone from preview 6 to release candidate 1 with the intention of going GA in the next month to 2 months, Maybe they might do another release candidate, but they think they're going to be production ready. But I'm here to tell you that I've been using it since preview 6 and it works. Release candidate works even better. So it's ready to use today. I've also written about this on 4sysops. You can go to my website. I'll be writing individual blog posts about some of the individual vaults and how you can use them. Just know that the article that I wrote was for preview 6 because I wrote it a month and a half ago. And tonight I'm demoing RC1. At the end of the day, they're essentially the same module with just some small changes. As a matter of fact, I haven't even changed the demo that I'm doing tonight for RC1. It basically works exactly the same. If you'd like to browse on the PowerShell gallery, there's the secret management module that you can go to at this link. If you like, I can share this out with everybody. Let me do that now. Share. I'm posting a link in the chat. That link will take you to the article, the notes that I'm looking at right now. All right, so I mentioned the secret management module. You can find it on the PowerShell gallery. The sister module that goes with the secret management module is called the secret store. That's where you'll store your secrets, and I'll explain that more in a second. That link can be found here. And then tonight I'm going to be showing off KeyPass. If you're interested in that link, you can find them here. PowerShell Gallery has a search window. You can find all that stuff through some simple sharing. It's not that tough. From PowerShell, and I'm going to do this. I'll show you. I'm sorry, this is a little small here. See if I can make this bigger. You can do find module Microsoft.PowerShell.SecretManagement, and you can find the associated vaults by searching by a tag. Find module -tag secret management. Again, I'll try to share all that stuff so make it a little easier, but I just wanted to get all that stuff out of the way. All right, we did all that. That's wonderful. Let's go back and look at our other stuff here. All right, so we all know what passwords look like the old way. Most likely, anybody who's using passwords today before the secrets management module, I'm going to get off of this guy here for a second. Okay, I'm back on my machine, and I'm going to minimize this for a second just so I can keep these. So anybody who has kind of worked with scripts in the past has probably done something like this, where they use get credential to save some credentials to a variable. And I'm calling this old cred because I'm sort of highlighting this as the old way to do this. When I do this, this is going to prompt me for some login information. Now I have a password that's saved to a variable, and then I can do, all kinds of cool stuff, like get AD user, use the credential, and pass my old cred, right? Most people have probably seen something like that. Yeah, that's great, except there's only one problem. Old cred is a PS credential that I made that consists of a username and a password. And that password is simply a secure string. And I can reverse that like pretty easily, right? So this is the password I just typed in. So there's no security there, right? You can't save this anywhere that you can count on. You can't put it in a spreadsheet. There's nothing that you can use that you can count on. We have this conundrum where we built these great scripts and we need to authenticate in our environment, but when we need to authenticate, we need to remember these passwords, or we write them down somewhere, and when we write them down, the system sort of breaks down. So that's the gap that the secrets management module is here to fill. And what Microsoft has done is they've built a way for us to secure our passwords on our local system. And I want to stress local system because it works on your local system. So if you're going to ask, how can I redirect this to a network share or to my OneDrive or to someplace else, you can't, at least not in a supported fashion. You can do some things like junction links and stuff like that, but those are really out of the context of what the module was designed for. So back to what I was saying, Microsoft is giving us a way to create a vault on our local system that we can securely save our passwords and our strings and our API keys and GUIDs and all kinds of registration info into, and we can reliably count on it to be saved on the machine, encrypted, and safe from prying eyes. And then we can recall it in an easy method. And that's what the secrets management module is all about. So before I get into that, I'm going to jump back to that one slide that I had to explain a little bit about how this works. So let's go full screen here for 1 second. So as you may have seen, I'm working on a console. I write some commands, I pass them to the module, and then the module will interact with the vaults. And the reason I have 3 vaults here is to explain the idea that the secrets management module is the engine that does the work. And LastPass has their own method for securing passwords. KeePass has its own method for securing passwords. If they were write custom modules for each of these vaults, you might have to learn the syntax that LastPass would create or KeePass would create. But what we've done here is we've built the secrets management module from Microsoft, and Microsoft has dictated that if you want to make modules that work with the secrets management module that save to alternate vaults, you need to follow the Microsoft way. So for us, the end user, what that means is we learn some simple commands here at the console, and no matter what vault we work with, they work. We don't have to learn syntax for each module. So in the beginning, you may have to go through a couple of hoops to either create a module, create a vault, or link to a vault. But once your vault is instantiated and you're saving passwords into it, you're recalling secrets from either the local store or from LastPass or from KeePass, all with the same syntax. And that is a really great thing because it makes it a lot easier for us. So in this demo here, I have a username and a password. This is not the syntax, it's just an example. I pass that to the module does the work, it then hands it off to the vault. It knows the language it needs to speak for the vault to be able to save that in a secure manner. It doesn't matter where it goes, the engine does the work for us. So I just need to know a simple syntax, I pass it to the module does the work for me. And the end result is, if I wanted to, I could have multiple modules with multiple secrets, and I don't need to know an individual syntax for each vault. It's a super great thing. It may not make a big impact to you now if you've never done this, but believe me, if you had 9 different vaults, you don't want to have to learn 9 different versions of the same set secret password for a different vault, right? So we know one syntax, and we work with many different modules and vaults. That's it for our demos. For our slides, the rest of it's going to be at the command line now. So let's go through some of the basics. I'll take a quick pause here because I need something to drink and see if anybody's got any questions. Did I lose anybody? Excuse me, did I lose anybody yet? All right, silence is golden. I just want to remind you, if there's something I go over that maybe you don't understand, please feel free to interrupt. I'd be happy to take a second to pause. So let's talk about install. I sort of showed you the old way here. Let's talk about the new way. This is just a rehash of what I was talking about earlier. I want to show it for you live. Let's go over to module machine number 2. So just going to do a quickie paste here. Now, when you search for modules, it's find module. I'm doing this extra stuff here because I want to get a specific view for what we're doing tonight, but you don't need the select statements at the end to make this work. But if I want to go out and search for this module, I'll pull this over here. So what I did is I searched for the Microsoft PowerShell Secret Management module, and with any luck, I get back an answer. This is the name of the module, and you can see it was made by Microsoft, and here's the latest version. So to put this in context, when I did this demo 2 months ago, the secret management module was at 0.055 or preview 6. They've had 4 iterations since I've done this. This is a module that's in active development by Microsoft, and it's very, very close to being fully baked. So I can do the same thing here. I mentioned there are vaults, so I can search for the vaults as well. Now they built this tag system, so you need to use the tag and use the tag of secret management. And just to show you here, these are some of the vaults that are out there that you can work with. And almost all of these are open source. I think they're all open source, done by community members. Steve Lee is a Microsoft team member. Tyler Lionheart works on VS Code now. And the rest of the people, I think, are open source people. So it's a module that's being supported by the community. Most of the major vaults are starting to get built. If they're not there now, they will be soon. And as Jeffrey points out in the chat, 1Password is there. 1Password was not there a few months ago. This list has grown. In particular, Justin Grody did a talk for my group last month, which we have recorded. He went into a deep dive about how to build these secret management vaults. It's not that much work. You're basically wrapping PowerShell commands around native syntax. It's pretty simple, according to Justin. I haven't tried it yet, but he's sort of the expert at building these modules. You can take a look at my user group, our YouTube channel, and you can see some information about that. All right, so that's how we find it. So as I told you guys before, I have 2 iterations here. This one is ready to go. This one has nothing. So let's do it. And if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to do this live. So I'm going to install the secret management module right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and install 2 modules only because, well, you know what, I'm only going to install the one because the KeyPass one I'm going to do on the other machine. So as I mentioned, the secret management module is the engine. If you don't have a third-party module that you're going to work with, you need something to store secrets with. So you cannot use the secret management module on its own. You need to use something. So I'm going to be using the secret store module. And what is that? That's the module from Microsoft, their homegrown solution. In their first iterations of this module, they were storing stuff with the Windows Credential Manager, and someone realized along the way that that's not the most secure way to do it. So they changed gears midway, created their own store called the Secret Store. And that's what this is. So what the Secret Store is an XML file that it lives on your machine, and it's literally just a file. So basically like a JSON. And what happens is when you create your vault password, that vault password becomes the key that the module is encrypted with AES encryption. So we'll get into that in a little bit here. So now we have the 2 modules installed. Get modules. So you can see here I have why doesn't it show my modules? I'm not going to worry about that right now. All right, let's move on. So I am going to be working tonight in PowerShell 7, but this is supported in PowerShell 5. There's really nothing else you need to do except from one key aspect. You may get some prompts when you use PowerShell 5 and you want to install your module about, you know, hey, NuGet is not at the newest version. You need to be at 2.5 or greater. PowerShell 5 out of the box doesn't come with a very current version of PowerShell Get or the NuGet tool that uses what pulls down modules. So what you may want to do, this is not a requirement. It was a requirement when this was a preview module, but this has changed now since it's a release candidate and it's publicly available. You can install the latest version of PowerShell Get. It's version 3. It is still a dev module, but it works just fine. It will go GA pretty soon, and then everybody will be using the latest version of PowerShell Get. But on PowerShell 5, you may want to install PowerShell Get to get past some of the warnings that you may get. Same exact process for 7 as there is 5, so I'm not going to review that, but we can do both of that. So that's all there is to installing the modules. We're going to now initiate our vault and put some secrets in there, and you'll see it's pretty straightforward. So everybody's still with me. Questions on anything they've seen so far? Hey, Steve. It's easy to migrate secret source since it's a single file. Jared, are you asking about I make a vault, I populate a bunch of secrets, then I get a new machine, I got to get secrets onto my new machine? Is that your concern? Yeah, so yeah, I could see that being a problem. I don't know that I have a great solution for you. But remember, these are really meant for you. So I'm sure you could park those secrets in some variables and pipe them over the machine through remoting. Setting up your vault is a one-time process. So once you go through that little bit of exercise once, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But maybe you have an extensive password list, and maybe that's a little bit more work. But there is not a really good solution for that. As the guys are saying in the chat, the supported methods of moving things around isn't really there. It doesn't mean it can't be done. And remember, some people are mentioning about the benefit of using 1Password or LastPass or some cloud solution over the secret vault from Microsoft. 100% agree with you. But remember, if you do not have that solution, that is what Microsoft made their vault for. Microsoft felt the need to create a solution that was feature complete. They are forcing the other modules to plug into their syntax. So whatever module you use, the syntax is the same. But if 1Pass or LastPassword or Bitwarden or some other cloud solution works better, obviously do that. You don't have to be stuck with the local secret store. All right, so after we get this installed, let's take a look at what we got on the machine here. So all right, so remember, trying to get you guys used to the terms. SecretManagement is the engine that does the work. Here is a list of the commands that are in that module, and they're pretty simple to understand. You make a vault by registering a vault. You make a secret by setting a secret. You can set some vault defaults. You can test and you can remove vaults, but really your life is going to exist probably, with these commands and set secret. Once I set my secrets, I just do get secret and I'm off to the races. That's the nuts and bolts of it. That is for the engine. And then the secret store itself, since we're talking about that particular module tonight, that has its own set of commands as well. Those are here, and that's if you want to set the configuration on the store. I will talk about that in a little bit. And obviously commands related to that. So nothing too challenging here. Nothing really out of the ordinary. If you've done PowerShell in the past, most of this stuff will seem familiar to you. There is a help file. There are examples. The examples are a little thin, but there's enough information there between the module information and the article that Sydney published on the Microsoft blog and the article that I wrote on 4sysops to cover everything that you need to know to start using secrets tomorrow. So with that being said, let's do that. So on this machine, I guess before I do that, let me just show you that get secret. What do I want? Secret vault. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. An 8-year-old just decided they wanted to come and join our meeting, and I had to put an end to that. So, so you see, I have no vaults here. I have no, what else am I looking for? I have nothing installed on this. I just wanted to show you there was nothing there. So the way we get started is we have to register a vault. Okay, and the way that we do that is just the register secret vault command. I'm going to show you that. It's fairly straightforward. So I'm being really verbose here with all the switches here, but it's register secret vault. The name of the vault that you want to call it. You need to call the module, and you need to decide if you want to set it as your default vault. Obviously, if you only have one vault, it's your default vault. So this is a little redundant since I don't have another vault, but this is all you need. So when I do this, there you go. I just created a vault. That was really unexciting, wasn't it? Yeah, and let me explain why. All I did was create a file, and the file has nothing in it. There's really nothing to see until we create our first secret. Now, something I want to point out. The vault needs a master password, but you notice that I wasn't prompted for a master password. When you create your first secret in the vault, you will be prompted for your master password. Once the master password is set, every secret thereafter will not get the prompt. You obviously can change the master password. But when you register your vault, you will not be prompted for a secret for a master password. It comes down on the first password that you create. I should say secret. They're not always passwords. All right. So, and that's because it's just an XML placeholder, right? So I think, okay, so let's, a little farther down. So let's create a secret, okay? So the way to do that is with the set secret commandlet. It's pretty straightforward. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying set secret. The secret name I'm going to call is just text string. It doesn't mean that's the type, that's just the name I gave it. And then secret is what I actually want to save as the secret. That's what's going to be encrypted. All right, so when I do that, I told you first time it's going to say, hey, I need a password. So I'm going to set a password. And I'm off to the races. All right, so there we go. So I now have a secret in the vault. Okay, I'm going to set another one. I'm just showing you some various examples here. This time I'm making a secret and I'm calling it API key. Again, I could call it anything I want, and this is the actual text that's going to be put in there. And now because I saved my last password and I created a master password, when I do this one, I will not get prompted. Question from the audience. Who's got the open mic? Thank you, sir. All right. All right, so now that I have some secrets in the vault, we can do something with them. So getting a secret is simple. It's just get secret. Now, if I had multiple vaults, I would need to specify a vault name. But because I only have one vault, I don't need to do that. But I could put in here vault demo. That's the name of the vault that I created up here, name vault demo. But because I only have one vault, I don't need to do that. When I get that, I'm going to get the information back, but it's already been saved as a secure string. So if I want to see what it is, I need to reverse that. And we can do that. I'm not going to go through that exercise now, but I can save that to a variable if that's what I prefer to do. Now I can use that variable in my scripts and I could pass that along. So you see what we're doing here. We're saving some secrets into a vault. The vault manages them for us. We can recall them. I'm pointing this out because in the old days, you would save things to variables and you'd have to know what's in the variable. I don't care anymore. The vault holds my secret. All I need to do is pass the secret to what I want to do. So as I mentioned earlier, there's different types that you can save in there. One of them is a PS credential. Okay, so the question is, when we put our secrets in here, okay, you see that there's a parameter called dash secret. That's how you get the secret in there. How the heck do you get a PS credential in there? I've only been putting in one line of text. How do you do it? It's not so obvious, so I want to point that out. Before I do that, let me just show you that when you do set secret, here are the params that you could call. There's not a ton here, right? There's a secret, there's a secure string, And that's kind of it. You can name the vault, and then the rest of the stuff is sort of the standard stuff. So it's not super obvious how you get a PS credential in there. I'm going to show you. It's really a lot easier than you think. So if I want to create a secret with a PS credential, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set secret. I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this, I'll call it, just for consistency, mkadmin. You know what? Let's call this dummy admin. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to call get credential. And if you're familiar with get credential, when you use the get credential command, it'll prompt you to enter a username and password. So what's going to happen is it's going to prompt me for username and password. It'll then save that as the secret with the set secret commandlet. And I want to point out something very important here that I didn't discuss earlier. Earlier in the demo, if I scroll up here for a second, I guess it's on the other machine. Let me just point it out. Remember here, I did this old cred, get credential, mklab, mkana. I made up a username, and here's the password I used. Just understand that when you do PS credential, you are entering information in that's being saved. You're not being authenticated. So back over here, or on the other one, if I go in here and I type in a password, whoops, get into my screen here. I told you it's going to prompt me for a user. So my domain name is mklab. I'm going to say mkadmin. Okay. It's going to prompt me for a password. Okay. Whatever I type in here is going to be saved. I'm actually going to type a bad password. Okay. It didn't stop me from typing a bad password. I'm pointing that out because get credential is a method for storing your credentials. It's not authenticating you to see if you typed the correct password. So if I tried to authenticate now to my DC, enter PS session, DC01, credential, I'm going to now pass that credential, get secret. What did I call that? Cred dummy admin. Didn't work. Why? Not because my secret has something wrong with it. I input a bad password. It takes whatever I put into it. It's not authenticating me to make sure that the password I put in is valid. It's simply storing whatever information I put in there. So it's on you when you pass in your credentials to make sure you get them right. Because if you pass in your credentials and you start using them in scripts, you could potentially lock yourself out. And you may not know why. And the simple reason is you put in bad data, it's going to pass bad data, and then you're going to fail your authentication. So just wanted to point that out. But what we did here is we actually passed a PS credential to the vault. So now let's go take a look at some different things here. So first, I thought it might be interesting to all right, so what time we got here? So I believe this file here. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm telling you the right information. I believe this store file is the actual file that's saving the passwords. And as you can see, it's encrypted. I can't read it, right? The location on the machine is in my user's app data local profile. So it's user specific. So there is a way when you configure the vault to not have it user specific, save it in a different location. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. If you want to have a shared vault and save passwords amongst the team and have a standard master password that you use, I guess that's okay. But by default, if you don't run a config, it's user specific. So I can come over here to PowerShell 5 install my modules, which I did, and recall secrets. I can go across PowerShell environments. Remember, PowerShell 5 and PowerShell 7 are not the same. One is Windows PowerShell, the other is PowerShell Core. They use different engines, but they're using the same user profile data, so I can recall the secrets from both engines if I have the modules installed. But what I can't do is recall secrets across different users because it's profile specific. So if I have a situation where I log in and I run all day with a standard user account, and then I need to recall passwords for an admin account, I either have to pass the password to a credential to a commandlet that supports credential. If I log in with the other user, my vault is not going to be accessible. So you may have a situation where you have to create vaults in multiple profiles depending on your user setup. All right, so I want to make sure we're okay with where we are, because this is really the meat and potatoes. This is really what I wanted to highlight to you. So this, in my last time that I presented this, was a little bit of a challenge for people to pick up in one pass. And I want to make sure that we didn't lose anybody. So questions, comments, things you didn't understand, stuff I screwed up. Anybody have any questions?
That you were talking before about it's on that machine, and then now you're saying it's user-based. I'm in an environment that's non-persistent VDI. Would I be able to use this at all?
Your profile is going to get thrown away?
The profile's managed to UEM.
Microsoft says it's a local file on the machine. It's in the local user profile. If you store that user profile on a network share, but it's still in the user profile paths, I think that should work. Your mileage may vary, right?
It does what? It does save UEM, does save the user, username, app data, local stuff, but I'm not sure exactly how what stuff it actually saves every time. But that does get saved, the local stuff.
So
the app data, local low, and roaming all get saved and deployed to the fresh VDI every time you get it.
I do know someone that successfully set a junction point and pointed it to another location. So look, I think you have some options there. Microsoft is not going to tell you that those are supported operations, but if it works for you, it works for you. What I would be worried about in those environments where you're saving profile data off to some common location for users that are doing roaming profiles, or like you said, VDI or something like that.
Yeah.
Call me old school. The only thing I could see is giving you a problem is corruption, right? Two machines trying to write to the same user profile at the same time or something like that. That's the only time I could see it presenting an issue for you. But basically, if you have an environment that's set up that's successfully writing profile data to an alternate location, I can't imagine why that wouldn't work.
Okay.
There are some pretty smart people on this call. I would maybe chuck that in the chat and see if anybody has any alternate opinions to see if they disagree with me. But test, it doesn't take much time to set this up. I mean, I've been doing it for 45 minutes and talking about every detail. I think you could set this up in like 10 minutes, right? So it's not a lot of work to figure out if it works in your environment. But also remember, if you're going to put secrets somewhere and you're going to do something in, let's just say, a non-standard way, I guess the onus is on you to make sure you have a way to get yourself out of that situation if it goes south. So just be careful. You know, it's that measure twice, cut once kind of deal.
There's so many environments that go in where there's no physical, where you have a one-to-one relationship anymore. It's all virtual, where you get a fresh re-imaged machine every time.
So Jared asked, where's the location of the file? So if you guys can see my screen, it's at users, user profile name, app data, local, Microsoft, PowerShell, SecretManagement. I'll show that again on the screen. And then, so I said the path goes here, then it's under local store, and the file is store file. I believe that's correct. I'm going by the timestamps based on when I was doing stuff. It's encrypted, so obviously I can't see what's in there, but that would make sense. Also remember that this information is specific to the Microsoft Secret Store module. When you start switching to other modules, vaults, the locations change based on the password vault that you're using. So earlier, people were commenting about using cloud stuff. Obviously, you use a cloud solution. It's not going to be on your local machine. There's also one to use with Chromium. There's one for SecretManager. There's a lot of choices. So maybe for that situation, maybe a different vault is better for you. The cool thing is the commandlets that I showed you are basically the same if you want to write secrets to a different vault. That's the beauty of the system that Microsoft set up for us. What else? Other questions I can answer? Okay, so I see Josh mentioning in the chat that something I haven't talked about yet, which is the configuration of the vault. And I must have passed that here. I thought I wrote down the command to do that. So let's do that. If I go back onto my machine and I took a look at this and I jump over here, if I say get secret store configuration. Okay. Now let's do that as a. Okay, so you can see here there's not a lot to set, but there are different options. One of them is scope. So you could change this to, let's do this. If I go set and I go scope, all users, current user. All right. Authentication, none, password. So I'm pointing this out for a reason. And then there's a password timeout, which you can set in seconds, and then interaction. Let's see what choices we have there. None, prompt, none, prompt. Not sure what that's doing. So let's go through this for a second. Scope. I haven't tried this, but it seems to me that with this setting, you should be able to set this to save, you change your scope to all users, and then we restore that. I bet you it would have picked a completely different profile location outside the user profile, probably all users or public. That would be my guess. Authentication, you can shut off authentication, which basically means there is no master password. I am not going to sit here and recommend that. That's just not a good security practice, but obviously they have considered that as an option. You may want to consider that. So if you remove the master password, you've now stopped the barrier to being able to use this in an automation scenario, pipelines, anything like that, jobs, because you can recall secrets and not have to worry about getting prompted for passwords. However, I think you can understand that the security risk there is because anybody who gets the file and is able to plug it into the module will be able to get access to your secrets. So maybe not the best choice there, but if you're in a secure environment, it's your machine or something like that, and you feel comfortable with that, there you go. Interaction, not sure what interaction is doing for us here. I haven't played with that option. Prompt, not sure. But those are our options for the configuration. The one that's interesting is the password timeout. So 900 seconds, that's what this value is, translates to 15 minutes. As Josh was saying here, the vault has a 15-minute timeout. So if you are interacting with the vault on a regular basis throughout the day, you can input your master password once and you'll be done for the day. If 15 minutes goes by without interaction, the next time you call a secret, it will prompt for the master password. I'll leave it at the default 15 minutes. It seems to work for me. Recalling a password is easy. I just have to put in one master password and then I really don't have to worry about it. Obviously, you can update your secrets. You can add and remove secrets. I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail because I don't know that it has a lot of value. Glad you enjoyed it, Josh. I'll see you around, maybe tomorrow night. So with that, I've covered the things that I want to talk about this last piece here that's here, I sort of did in the beginning, which was just doing a remote session to a machine and passing the credentials. I can do that again just to show you. But this is what I wanted to cover with the usage of the module. I'm going to transition into using KeyPass next, and then we'll wrap it up. But so again, now that I have some secrets in there, I can use those secrets by going to another machine, passing credentials. Remember, right now, this user does not have the ability to connect to my domain controller because they're not a domain admin. However, if I do want to connect, I can pass in a secret. It's as simple as just giving it the get secret command. If I had multiple vaults, I'd have to specify the vault, but since I don't, it's just cred mkadmin. I think I didn't make a secret here. Oh, you know what? I didn't make a secret. So let's do that. Set secret cred. Okay, admin. I didn't make the secret before because I didn't want to show you my password. Get credential. MK lab. MK admin. All right. See my vault timed out. I broke something. All right, let me just, in the interest of time, just jump over here because I know everything's working fine. PS session, DC01, cred, get secret, cred. Okay, so you see here I connected to my remote machine, as I showed you earlier. Who am I? I'm in as my admin and the name of the machine I'm on. I didn't plan to do much more in the way of demoing the secrets because passing the secret is not the challenging part. It's creating the vault, populating the secrets. Recalling them is the easiest part of the exercise. Once you understand that you can use anything as a credential parameter and just pass it in, it becomes a trivial task. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to switch gears and now show you how the KeyPass piece works. And you'll see there's not much involved with that.
Question. What if you want to change or delete a password that's in the vault?
Good question. Let's take a look. I'm going to jump over here so we can play around a little bit. So let's do this. Jump over here and say, okay, so there is not a commandlet to update a secret. So when we want to update a password, we just set secret over the old secret with the same values and new password credentials. Make sense? So to do that, let's see if we could do this. So if we go, let's figure out what we did wrong here. Oh, I think I have my dummy one that I made there. So let's say get, oh, you know what, guys, I apologize. I left a little bit out here. Look at secret info. Okay, I should have showed you that earlier. Get secret info recalls the information that's in the vault. So here you can see I have a vault named Vault Demo, and I have 3 keys in here, right? One was the API key, one was just a various text string, and then the dummy credentials that I made. So let's overwrite that. Okay, so now I'm going to say set secret cred dummy admin. Okay, credential MK lab MK admin, and I am just going to write over that with password 1, 2, 3, and it took the password. So now you don't see the change in the password, but what it did is it just overwrote this value. And if I want to delete a password, it is just remove. and there's really no prompts on that. It'll take it right out. Once, if you've already authenticated into the vault with your master password, you have the rights to do that. So remove secret, the name of the secret, and it'll get rid of that. I can show you that. Remove secret text string. Vault demo. And there you go. So now if I go back up here, my secret's gone. So that's the basic user management, right? You can add whatever you want into there. There's a little more work to add a hash table in and the byte stuff, but it's all kind of the same.
Can you use get secret non-interactively?
Sure.
In a script.
Can you use get secret non-interactively in a script? Well, no. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. So the caveat is the master password.
Right.
Right. So here's what you could do. If you want to be able to run a script that's on a schedule, that's a little bit of a challenge. All right. So like if you have a scheduled job that runs every night at 3 a.m., not a great solution here. But what you could do is you could set a timeout value very high. Okay. It's in seconds. So right. So maybe you set the value. I'll give you an example. You leave work at 5 o'clock. You're gonna have scripts that are gonna run at 11 p.m. You unlock the vault before you leave, and the vault stays unlocked for 8 hours. And then you have scheduled jobs that's in your profile that'll run. It'll be able to recall the secrets without asking for the master password. And then after the timeout value, it'll lock the vault again. Okay. It's a really kind of crappy solution, but it works. The other option is to remove the prompt choice from this here interaction prompt or authentication, right? So then it's not interacting with you. You'd have to test these out, make sure they work the way you work. Mm-hmm. You're giving up a little bit of security for the ease of use, but it's workable. You just have to figure out a solution that works for you.
Right. Okay.
Right. But this is really meant for the guys like me who are doing stuff at a command prompt all day or working in VS Code. I always enjoy working at the command prompt, even though I do work in VS Code all day long. And I'm working most of my day interactively, right? So Steve, you could do something clever. Steve, you want to explain your clever solution? Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I can.
Hey, everybody, say hello to Stevie Coaster, Steven Valdinger of Chocolatey fame.
Yeah. So what you could do with a scheduled task, if you're going to use like a managed service account or a GMSA account, is run PowerShell as that GMSA account and set an environment variable in the registry, scope it to the current user registry hive, and save a secure string into that environment variable. And then inside of your PowerShell code that you're going to run as a scheduled task, just have some logic at the top of it that reads that secure string out of that environment variable and uses convert from secure string to get it back to a plain text, or build a credential object out of it directly and then use that credential object to get the password and apply that as the mastered password to unlock the vault. You're going to rely on DPAPI at that point, because only that GMSA account on that machine will be able to do anything with that secure string. But you could work.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So you can definitely get clever. There's obviously solutions, but I would also say that if you have the ability to leverage a vault that supports some sort of PKI solution, you could then park a certificate on your machine or on the machine that's going to run the task, and the certificate could be your authentication string. That would probably make life a lot easier and more secure. I don't think Microsoft is there yet, but I do think they're going to get there eventually. because this is my second time demoing this. I have watched I've watched the PowerShell team demo this. Every single time the question that you just asked comes up. So it's a problem for everybody. And right. So they're going to have to do something at some point. I think you just need to understand that what Microsoft was trying to accomplish here was to give us a solution in the interim.
Yes.
And I also want to say that they may also say, hey, you know what? We have this thing called Azure and it's got a key vault and we have a lot more robust solutions out there. You should probably look at that because that's kind of the Microsoft way. But there is ways to do what you want to do. Just have to figure out what's going to work in your environment. So what else? Things I didn't cover, questions? All right, so I didn't really demo it here, but you could have multiple vaults on a machine. Inside the secret store, you can have different vault names. Why you would do that, maybe just be for organization purposes. But there's a lot of options. Whether you have 10 vaults or one vault with all within the same store location, there's no real difference there. Maybe you have vaults that have non-secure information and you save that to all users, and maybe you have vaults that have user information that's really critical in your user profile. I think you can get pretty creative with this stuff. Okay, so the only other thing I wanted to cover tonight was just to give you a peek at how a third-party module works. This is not going to be a deep dive on the inner workings of the module. This is really just a quickie demo to show you how you could interact with a third-party module and sort of see the possibilities. So for that, I'm not going to do it from scratch because this wasn't exactly the easiest thing for me to set up in the beginning, and it works, and I kind of don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to go with the pre-baked one that I have already. So in this demo, what I want to show you is how to interact with KeePass. I don't personally use KeePass. I use LastPass. I'm a little disappointed because LastPass doesn't have a client, a CLI version for Windows. You have to start getting into Cygwin and other choices, and I don't want to do that. So for me, LastPass is not an option right now. I'm looking at Bitwarden as my password manager for the future. It's an open source platform password manager. It has a ton of features. It's a really great product. Take a look at that if it's something you're interested. A lot of people mentioned OnePass and what are the others. But the reason I picked KeePass is simply because KeePass is a GUI tool. And the reason that that appeals to me is that you can type passwords here and use the features of the management tool and then interact with them here. So maybe command line isn't your thing and you don't like entering and managing passwords in the command line. You could use a tool like KeePass, which gives you some more functionality, a GUI, a little bit more user friendly, and then call those passwords. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So I just want to point out one thing. Most of these modules, in fact, all of them have homes on GitHub. I am following the documentation here for KeePass, which is written by a friend of ours, Justin Grody. This is his open source module that he wrote. Justin is an extremely bright individual. He makes some great code. I am basically going to recreate what's here. I can't tell you that I'm an expert at this, but I do want to show you how it works so that you understand here. Now, I've already set up the vault. I've already connected it, but it does take a little bit of explanation to understand what's going on here. So let's consider a scenario, whoops, wrong machine, that we haven't considered yet, which is when we were working with our vault before, we built the vault, we registered the vault, we saved secrets into it. In this scenario, one possibility is I have an existing vault, but PowerShell doesn't know about that vault. Just installing the vault module doesn't allow for the vault to be detected. You still have to register the vault in the registry of the machine so that it knows where the vault exists, meaning the file that KeePass is using to save this, because in particular with KeePass, I can have multiple vaults, as you see here, me fooling around with different stuff. So what I need to do is I need to tell PowerShell which one of these files to look at. And then also this vault already has a master password. So I need to register that master password into PowerShell, or at least let it prompt me when I want to access the vault so that PowerShell knows where to look, right? So what we're really doing is we're just scoping the vault, the KeePass vault that I installed, the module, to point at the particular information that's already existing on the machine. So I think I have that already. And because I don't use the KeePass tool very often, I'm less well-versed at this tool than the others. So I am going to do what they got here, and then we'll play around a little bit. So Justin gives an example. How many times am I going to pull up the wrong machine? Right. My vault is called MK tests. All right. So this is not going to be super exciting. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, how about if I put the right secret name in? Okay. I found a typo in his documentation here. It's not vault name for parameter, it's vault. And even though I know that, I keep copying and pasting the wrong thing. So what I did here is I used the get secret command. I've already gone through and set up the registry on the machine. I only did this one command here. I just saved you the time of watching me really hack away at some bad commandlets typing. So you can actually see here that I had it right here in the background, right? So this was just my register command here, and I just registered and I did some tests. So I skipped over that. What I did here is I recalled the password named sample entry, which is what comes with the default here, from the thing. And now I can use that. I can play with that if I want. But let's go ahead and let's set a secret, right? And we're going to call this SoCal demo. Vault. MK test. I think this is going to work. I can't say for sure. All right, that looks like that worked. Now, if I come over here, well, I forgot how to refresh this. F5. All right, let me close and reopen. So there it is. So if I open this now, super exciting demo. What do you guys think of that? I can then put passwords in here. I can recall them. I'm not super like a KeePass guy. What I really wanted to show was the ability to have a GUI-based password vault, password manager that I can interact with through the command line. So again, I could do the same thing. I could pass this secret via the credential parameter, but I think you get the idea here. I have a vault that's a third-party vault that I picked where I wanted to sit on my machine, or maybe in the cloud. The PowerShell is interacting with that vault through a vault module that was installed. Makes it super simple. So that's what I wanted to cover tonight. And I wanted to know if we have anything that we want to cover again, questions. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up. So I'll turn it over to you guys, see if you have any questions for me. All right.
Actually, sorry, really quick. I was wondering if you had any thoughts about like module development, not secret module development, but regular module development that has the need to store secrets and trying to utilize the secrets management module at like as a supported backend. Like what would a module author that needs to store some sort of a sensitive config do to optionally support like the secrets management module, so that you're not just by default storing sensitive data on the file system, and you want to let your users who might already be using a secrets management vault to store the module's secrets in their existing vault.
Oh my God, you made my head hurt. I understand what you're saying. Stephen, did you want to jump in on that before I say something? Because you seem like you're chomping at the bit.
That's a can of worms question, man.
Yeah, it is.
We could be here for 45 minutes answering it.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
well,
I would do a required module, honestly. In your PSD1 required module, require the secrets management module and have that pulled down, and then just have private functions that interact with the secrets management module directly, and then a couple of public modules that you expose if they want to use them, like to make it truly optional. Just do proxy command functions in your module that wrap the get secret, set secret stuff to pull things in and out of the configuration. But on the back end, when they install your module, that will install secret management for them as well. That'd be the simplest way to do it. You can get really complicated and do it other ways, but the simplest way is probably going to be your best way to get started.
Yeah. I was thinking some sort of an opt-in configuration where they're like, here, I want you to store your config in my secret vault. So I'm going to run this command in your module that I can provide the vault name and like the master password and or some minimum required information to access an existing vault. And then your module knows how to just run get secret with whatever secret names that it needs to store or decides to store and things like that.
Gotcha. You could do it. You could do something in the PSM1 for that then.
Yeah.
Using like get command, you can say like get command, get secret, and if that command exists, prompt them. Like I kind of hate prompting when you're loading a module, but for this, I think it's warranted to say, hey, you've got secret management. Do you want to use that as your backend for this? If yes, go ahead and enter your master password for what vault you want to use.
Sure.
And then just walk them through the process and set some environment variables on the system for the module such that the next time they load it, it checks for the presence of those environment variables and skips those prompts. But then the module will then use the values inside of those environment variables to do the other work. So
yeah, the environment variables is a good idea for sure.
Yeah. So that's how I would do it.
Ryan, are you a developer?
I am.
Yeah, so that's your world. I'm an admin, and what you said just scares me because that sounds super complex, right? But remember, I can only speak from what I've seen, and the guys that are really good at building modules all seem to be going the same way. They want to skinny their modules down to the smallest possible scope. No one seems to be building these giant modules like Microsoft did with the AZ module that has 9,000 commandlets in it, right? So by you doing that, you're adding complexity and a lot of other pieces that have to work. So if it was me, I'd build the module and I'd separate out the authentication and secrets as like what Stevie said, a requires piece that just pulls in, right? Obviously, you can do what Stevie was talking about, and if that's your comfort level, that's great. But man, that seems like a lot to have to support on an ongoing basis. It just seems like a lot of things to possibly go wrong. And I would just say that, when you look at most modules, even the stuff that's hidden from the user is only hidden in a way that it's not easy to find right off the get-go. Even the private commandlets in most modules are not in a way that can't be found. So what you're talking about is trying to obfuscate some information and secure some information deep inside your module that, I don't know, maybe you're just getting a little bit past what you really want to do. Maybe you just want to have these modules that plug into your module rather than making this super module. But I mean, if that's your comfort level and you're okay with that, go for it. I mean, there's options, but that's past my scope for sure.
Cool.
I am happy to answer as many questions as you guys have, but for demos and walkthroughs, I'm done for the evening. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd be happy to stay and talk about anything else you want, but our demo for the secrets management is done for the evening, and I'd be happy to fill in any holes that I might have left in your knowledge. Otherwise, I'm going to say good night and thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy it.
I just have a small request.
Sure.
Can you show the sample scripts that you have used in the demo? Is it possible?
Sure. So let me just, since I'm sharing my screen, I'll just save you the work right here. Let me just do a push to make sure they're up to date. There is a repo called presentations, and it's just inside there. You'll find folders sorted by date, and what you'll have in that repo is simply 1, 2, 3 tabs and the PowerPoint, which I don't know anybody who really wants the PowerPoint, but there it is if you want it. And I'm always available for questions. You can reach out to me Twitter or on my website via email, whatever works. But yeah, definitely can get the info. I just have to push the changes that I made right before the meeting up to make sure it's up to date.
I will make sure the link to your repo or your GitHub page gets included with the email I'll send out with the video link.
You know what? Let me get you the link right now. So my GitHub name is compwiz32. Who knows why I picked that? Jesus Christ, that's a long time ago. I have a repo called presentations, and I have an archive folder which covers anything prior to 2021. I left this one in here, which was the end of 2020, because it's essentially the same demo that I gave tonight with a little less info. So it was my starting point. I was using it to copy back and forth. Our meeting is right here, this 2021-01 SoCal PSUG, and in there, as you see, I got some GIFs in there. I'll probably pull out because they're just icons, but 1, 2, 3 files and the PowerPoint, and you guys are welcome to it. Let me share this link. So I don't do that big old text again. So it's in the chat now, and Matt said he'll share it with you guys via email at a later date.
Cool.
So I hope I didn't lose anybody on this presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it. The questions seem to have died down a little bit, so maybe it's a good time to break and say thank you for joining us tonight. Matt, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.